Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving into something absolutely fascinating today, literally the untold story of how ordinary, everyday people manage to build extraordinary millions. You know, we usually look at massive wealth and just assume there's some complex, top-secret formula involved. But today, we're stripping all of that away. We're getting right to the core of it, the psychology of money. We'll be pulling from this incredible framework of 9 distinct mindset shifts for financial freedom, and we're really going to zoom in on the most foundational ones today. Our goal? To completely reframe the way you think about wealth. Let's get into it. So, I want you to ask yourself, what if the absolute biggest difference between financial struggle and building real wealth has literally nothing to do with intelligence? I mean, really let that sink in for a second. We've all been conditioned to believe that wealth is strictly reserved for, the math geniuses, the financial wizards, or the folks who can just effortlessly calculate compound interest in their heads at a dinner party. But we're pulling back the curtain today to show you that this is just a massive misconception. Okay, so if it isn't raw intelligence, what is it, right? Well, what if the real difference actually lives entirely inside their mind? The truth that really comes through in our source material today is that our financial choices are almost never just about the math. Actually, they're merely symptoms. They're symptoms of our underlying, deeply held psychological expectations. Think about it. How we handle a single dollar is really a direct reflection of how we perceive the world and, more importantly, our place in it. And here's the trap. Millions of people are caught in this incredibly relentless 4-step cycle. First, you earn money. Second, you spend that money. Third, maybe you save a little bit if you're lucky. And fourth, you repeat that exact same process for decades. It's literally an endless treadmill. And honestly, this cycle perfectly captures exactly why so few people ever achieve true financial freedom. They're out there physically working incredibly hard, but psychologically, they're stuck in a loop that completely prevents any real momentum. So here's the absolute crucial takeaway I want you to remember from this explainer. Wealth is not built only with dollars. It's built with decisions. We really have to shift our focus away from just obsessing over our income, because every single financial decision you make, whether it's deciding to buy that daily coffee, take out a huge loan, or put money into an index fund, it all begins with the way you think. Your mindset is the architect here. The dollars, well, those are just the bricks. This brings us to part 1, the hidden problem, beliefs before bank accounts. You see, before we can even think about looking at a retirement account, we have to examine those deeply ingrained beliefs we carry around with us every single day. Because if your foundation is cracked, it honestly doesn't matter how much money you try to build on top of it. Phrases like, "I'll never be rich," or "I just don't make enough," sound familiar? It's incredibly common to have this kind of internal monologue going on. And hey, it's totally understandable to feel this way, especially when the bills are piling up, right? But our sources make this abundantly clear. Money problems rarely actually start in a bank account. They start inside a belief. When you constantly tell yourself you'll never be rich, your brain doesn't see it as a fear. It accepts it as a hard fact. And it's beliefs exactly like investing is just too risky, or, oh, rich people are just lucky, that quietly and dangerously influence every single financial choice we make. And the crazy part? We don't even realize it's happening. These thoughts act like an invisible script running in the background. They basically give us permission to avoid taking any real action, and they provide this cozy, comforting excuse for why we aren't where we want to be financially, which leads us straight into the trap of the self-fulfilling prophecy. Because you truly believe investing is risky, or that wealth isn't for people like you naturally end up making decisions that confirm those exact beliefs. You completely avoid investing. You delay saving for someday. You end up ignoring massive opportunities right in front of you. By acting on these limiting beliefs, you're essentially guaranteeing that your financial future looks exactly as bleak as you expected it to. It's a tough pill to swallow, but it's the truth. And this brings us to a massively important takeaway for today. Changing your income without changing your mindset, it actually changes very little. I mean, think about it. This is exactly why nearly a third of all lottery winners eventually wind up bankrupt. If you suddenly hand millions of dollars to someone who still has a mindset of scarcity and poor financial habits, well, that money is inevitably going to disappear. Real lasting wealth, that only begins when your thinking changes first. So let's look at mindset shift number 1, treating money as a tool, not a trophy. This right here is the fundamental difference in how self-made millionaires operate. They absolutely do not worship money. They don't put it on a pedestal. They just use it. See, the ordinary view treats money as a trophy, right? It's something you display, you spend it, you use it to prove to your neighbors that you're successful. But a true investor, they see money as an employee. It is a tireless worker that's on the clock 24 hours a day. It never ever takes a sick day, and it never asks for a bathroom break. Every single dollar is a little worker you can deploy to go out there and capture more dollars for you. So the really crucial point here is how this perspective shifts your daily self-talk. The wrong question, the one that keeps people firmly trapped in that middle-class cycle we talked about, is looking at a dollar and asking, what can I buy with this? But the right question, the wealthy question, that is, what can this dollar earn for me? Just replacing that one simple question in your day-to-day life, it can completely alter the entire trajectory of your financial future. It immediately shifts you from being just a consumer into a creator of wealth. Because honestly, it all just comes down to the basic mechanics of capital. Money spent once disappears forever. Poof, it's gone. But money invested, that money has the potential to create even more money. When you start treating your money as a utility tool rather than some shiny status symbol, you stop buying things that just depreciate in value. Instead, you start acquiring assets that grow. And this is the literal physical path to wealth. But remember, it is born entirely from making that psychological shift first. Moving right along to mindset shift number 2, prioritizing freedom over status. This shift is all about contrasting the typical goals of most folks with the ultimate underlying goals of the truly wealthy. It really comes down to figuring out what you are actually trying to buy with your money. Chasing status is basically just screaming to the world, hey, look at me. But chasing freedom? That's quietly knowing to yourself, I choose exactly how I spend my time. And yeah, sure, a flashy luxury sports car might impress the people in your neighborhood for a few seconds as you drive by. But true freedom? That completely changes your entire life, from the second you wake up until the moment your head hits the pillow. And this perfectly crystallizes the core thesis of our explainer today. Real wealth, at its heart, is the ownership of your own time. I want you to just imagine it for a second. Imagine waking up in the morning without a single ounce of worry about when your next paycheck is coming. Imagine choosing to go to work simply because you genuinely enjoy the challenge of it, not because you're forced to be there just to survive. That is the ultimate goal we are aiming for here. And guys, that is exactly why we invest. Every single smart investment you make brings you one step closer to that exact freedom. When you put $1 into the stock market or maybe into a new business venture, you aren't just trying to rack up a high score in your bank account app. You are quite literally buying back your future time. You're connecting the very practical, sometimes boring act of investing directly to the incredibly emotional reward of reclaiming your own life. Finally, Part 3, the quiet separators, moving forward. Look, seeing money as a tool and actively prioritizing freedom over status, these are the mental shifts that quietly but very forcefully separate the true wealth builders from absolutely everyone else. But keep in mind, these are only the first 2 of 9 critical mindset shifts for achieving true financial freedom. So, as you move forward from today, I want to leave you with this provocative question. How will your mind respond to failure, risk, and new opportunities? Because mastering these remaining shifts and how you handle the inevitable turbulence you'll face along the way, well, that's going to be the ultimate test of your wealth mindset. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer today, and I really encourage you to take some time and deeply reflect on your own relationship with money. Catch you next time. Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to today's explainer, everyone. We are getting into something absolutely transformational today. We're looking at the architecture of wealth, specifically the millionaire mindset that we pulled right from our source material. And we're going to unpack this massive, fundamental shift. It's moving away from just having an earner's mindset and developing a true owner's mindset. It sounds like a subtle pivot, right? Just a slight tweak in how you view the world, but it quietly changes absolutely everything about your financial trajectory. Now, this is really where the whole thing begins. You see, the vast majority of people out there operate as earners. And earners are pretty much always asking themselves one basic question: how can I make more money? Makes sense, right? But the wealthy, they have a fundamentally different conversation with their capital. Owners ask, how can my money make more money? It's a totally different paradigm. You literally stop trading your time for dollars and you start hunting for ways to make your dollars work around the clock for you. So let's look at section 1, the earner versus owner divide. Think about it like this. Every single time a paycheck hits your account, it presents you with 2 very distinct, diverging choices. That money can either disappear forever into your daily expenses, funding your lifestyle today, or it can be used to purchase tomorrow's freedom. The wealthiest people systematically use their income to buy ownership in 3 main categories: businesses, investments, and assets. They're buying things that keep generating value long after that initial paycheck was deposited. And that is how real long-term wealth is actually built. Which brings us directly to our second point, the power of patience. History shows us time and time again that delayed gratification is heavily rewarded. Look, it's human nature. Most of us naturally want our rewards right now. The bigger car, the newer phone, that luxury vacation today. But successful investors ask themselves a vital, really high-stakes question. What happens if today's spending becomes tomorrow's investment? Just let that sink in for a second. You are essentially sacrificing the fleeting thrill of today's purchase in exchange for the compounding abundance of tomorrow's wealth. Let's walk through this timeline together. If you look at year one, waiting might not look incredibly dramatic. Honestly, the growth seems pretty small. But look at what happens when we project that out to 10, 20, or even 30 years. Decades of waiting completely transforms your financial future. Patience earns a compounding return that impulsive spending just simply never can. As our source material points out, wealth usually belongs to the people who are willing to wait. Moving right along to section 3, redefining financial risk. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it completely flips a common narrative. If you ask the average person why they don't invest, they'll almost always give you the exact same answer. It's just too risky. But we have to completely turn that idea on its head. We really need to reevaluate what danger actually means by asking this: what's riskier, investing wisely for decades or reaching retirement without enough money? The real risk isn't participating in the market. No, the real risk is running out of time and money later in life. So how do millionaires actually handle this? Well, they definitely don't just blindly avoid risk. Instead, they take specific, disciplined steps. They seek to really understand it. They study it. They actively manage it. And crucially, they diversify instead of gambling. They completely accept that uncertainty exists, but they manage that uncertainty through disciplined education and strategy. To really cement this idea, I want to share this quote directly from the source. Real investing isn't about eliminating risk. It's about making informed decisions and staying disciplined through uncertainty. When you rely on knowledge, it actually replaces your fear. It helps you move forward with the calm confidence required to build lasting wealth rather than letting panic dictate your financial future. And that mindset shift naturally brings us to section 4, spotting hidden opportunities. You see, every economy creates challenges, absolutely. But every economy also creates profound opportunities. When markets decline or we see massive technological shifts, average thinkers immediately spot the obstacles. They resist change and they view market drops as a total disaster. But long-term wealth builders, they actively search for solutions. When technology shifts, they learn, adapt, and grow. And when the market drops, they don't panic. Instead, they see lower prices and massive future potential. Because here is the undeniable truth about wealth creation. Opportunity rarely announces itself with a parade. It often appears disguised as uncertainty. That is exactly why your mindset is the ultimate determining factor here. Your mindset alone dictates whether you look at an evolving, chaotic world and see paralyzing problems, or if you look out there and see unlimited possibilities. Finally, let's wrap this up with section 5, your daily wealth decisions. So the crucial point is, everything we've explored today, the strategies, the comparisons, the timelines, these aren't just abstract economic theories. No, they are highly practical frameworks. True financial freedom relies on you integrating these 4 foundational shifts into your daily life. 1, you must think like an owner, not just an earner. 2, you've got to intentionally delay your gratification to multiply your rewards. 3, you have to understand and manage risk instead of just running away from it. And 4, you must train yourself to recognize opportunity, especially when it's disguised as uncertainty. I really want to conclude this explainer with one final, provocative thought drawn from today's source material. Knowing everything we've just covered, will your mindset today find problems, or will it build possibilities? The choice of what you do with your very next paycheck is entirely up to you. Psychological shifts, mindset 6, 7, and 8 from our ongoing look at the psychology of money. Okay, let's dive into this. All right, let's jump right into mindset shift number 6, consistency beats intensity. Now, this is one of those profound financial lessons that honestly, so many of us only learn when it's almost too late. We live in a world that absolutely glorifies intensity, right? The massive product launch, the huge sudden stock investment, that mythical overnight success. But you know what? Wealth really doesn't care about intensity. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be consistent. And man, what a massive relief it is to actually internalize that. True wealth is rarely built by making one single flawless decision. It's built by thousands of completely ordinary decisions that you just repeat over decades.
Just look at the contrast here. On one side, you've got your aggressive investor. They pour absolutely everything they have into the market for 1 month, they get totally exhausted or distracted, and then they just stop. On the flip side, look at the quiet investor. Steadily, without any fanfare or drama, they invest a portion of every single paycheck, month after month, year after year. And guess what? The consistent investor wins pretty much every single time. Those small, quiet, consistent actions will easily outpace grand, aggressive plans that just end up fizzling out.
It's literally a snowball effect. It all starts with that consistency. When you're consistent, you're proving to yourself that you can actually stick to a plan. And what does that do? It builds massive confidence. That confidence then naturally hardens into ironclad discipline. And discipline, when you apply it over the long haul, well, that builds wealth. It's this beautiful cascading chain reaction.
Moving right along, here is mindset shift number 7. Learn before you earn. This specific mindset is shared by practically all of the most financially successful people on the planet. So why do they prioritize learning stuff before they ever expect to see a higher income? Because let's face it, money can disappear in a literal instant. A market crash, a bad investment, a business going under. Poof, it vanishes. But knowledge usually sticks around. Every single skill you acquire, every book you read, it stays locked in there to improve literally every future decision you're going to make.
You know the old saying, education isn't an expense, it's an investment in your future? Well, it's a cliche for a reason. The absolute wealthiest investors simply never stop learning. And the reason is super practical. The better your financial decisions become, the easier the actual act of building wealth becomes. It compounds. You aren't just earning money, you're earning the intelligence to multiply that money down the line.
Okay, let's look at our 8th shift. Your network shapes your net worth. I really want you to take a second and deeply consider the people you spend the most time with. Think about your friends, your colleagues, your inner circle. Ask yourself, do they encourage growth or do they just encourage comfort? It's a tough question, isn't it? Financially successful people choose their environments so incredibly carefully. They know for a fact that a comfortable environment, one that never challenges them, is just going to cause their wealth to completely stagnate right along with their mindset. So why exactly does your environment matter so much? Well, it's because certain things are highly contagious within a network. Think about it. Ideas spread like wildfire. Habits spread. Ambition spreads. When you surround yourself with builders, with investors, with people who actively solve problems instead of complaining about them, a massive shift happens. Your daily conversations change from whining about the economy to brainstorming opportunities. Automatically, your expectations for your own life just start to rise.
And honestly, that brings us to a really hopeful realization. You don't need to know every single high roller in the world. You really don't. Just one meaningful mentor, one valuable friendship, or finding one inspiring community can completely alter the trajectory of your entire financial future. Just one. So, we've covered consistency, lifelong learning, and the power of your network. Now let's see how all this ties into the compound effect of thinking differently.
Now, a mindset itself is totally invisible, right? You can't exactly put a dollar sign on it. But the results, they are undeniably visible over time. Just take a look at the expanding gap between these two timelines over the decades. One decision leads to another. One positive financial habit creates the bedrock for the next one. And eventually, the gap between these two lives becomes absolutely enormous. And the big secret here? It isn't luck. It's simply because, at crucial forks in the road, one person just chose to think differently. At the very root of that different way of thinking is one incredibly foundational mindset. The unwavering belief that the future could actually be better than the present. Think about it. Every single smart investment, every seized opportunity, and every disciplined, delayed gratification decision starts right there. Because if you don't actually believe the future can be better, you are never going to endure the daily discipline required to invest in it. All right, let's take a step back for a minute. Over the course of this explainer, we have dug into 8 incredibly powerful money mindset shifts. Each one of them, from the quiet power of consistency to the massive value of an ambitious network, is quietly changing the way successful people view and build their wealth. But our journey through the psychology of money isn't quite finished yet. There is still one piece of the puzzle remaining. which leaves us with one final hanging question for you to chew on. What is the most powerful mindset of them all? What is the single overarching idea that connects every single lesson we've explored today? It's the ultimate key to true financial freedom, and honestly, it might just flip everything you thought you knew about money totally upside down. We're going to uncover that final missing piece next time as we wrap up our explainer on the psychology of money. See you then.
All right, let's dive right into this. Welcome to the Explainer. Today we are unpacking something absolutely fascinating, the architecture of wealth. We're gonna look at the complete psychology behind building a lasting legacy. Because look, it's not actually about what's in your bank account today or what fancy gadget you can buy right now. It's about adopting a highly specific mental framework that literally creates generation-spanning value. You see, there's this massive fundamental divide in how people approach their money. Most folks, they're stuck asking a super ordinary question. How much can I spend today? They are completely zeroed in on today's lifestyle, just kind of trapped in the immediate present. But self-made wealth builders, they operate on a totally different frequency. They look at the world and ask, what can I build that lasts? It's all about tomorrow's legacy for them. And honestly, this single shift in perspective is the true engine behind financial independence. So to really get this, we have to completely redefine what we actually mean by wealth. Real wealth isn't just about what you own in this exact moment. It's definitely not the fancy cars or the flashy watches. True wealth is what continues creating value long after you're gone. Think about a compounding investment portfolio, a thriving automated business, or even just passing down rock-solid money habits to your kids. These aren't just personal wins. They form this unbreakable foundation for future generations. And getting to that level, building that generational foundation, it requires the exact right mental setup. So let's explore the complete psychology of wealth. This entire framework breaks down into 9 essential mindset shifts. We've got seeing money as a tool, chasing freedom, thinking like an owner, delaying gratification, understanding risk, staying consistent, learning before earning, surrounding yourself with growth, and ultimately building a legacy. Now, I know these might sound pretty simple on the surface, but when you actually practice them daily over a period of years, they will completely rewrite your financial future. Let's zoom in on a couple of the absolute most impactful shifts here. First up is this stark contrast between treating money as a trophy versus treating it as a tool. When you treat money like a trophy, you know, buying things just to signal status to everyone else, you literally trap yourself in an endless cycle of keeping up appearances. But treating capital as a tool, well, that means deploying it to buy back your own time. What would they tell you right now? Would they say, hey, start sooner, or maybe invest more consistently? Or how about ignore the opinions of people who never invest anyway? Because here's the thing, that future highly successful version of you, they don't just magically appear out of thin air. No way. They are the direct result of a timeline that starts right this second. It begins today with your very first decision. Fast forward 5 years and it's defined by the consistent habits you've built. By 10 years, you really start seeing the massive snowballing power of compounding growth. And at the 20-year mark, you finally hit that financial freedom. Every single dollar you invest, every new skill you learn, every habit you improve starting today, it's a direct gift to the person you're going to become. Money doesn't reward wishful thinking. It rewards disciplined action. Man, that is a heavy truth, isn't it? Wealth simply doesn't care about your hopes or what you wish would happen. It demands patience. It demands a serious commitment to learning, a long-term vision, and above all else, the daily discipline to act on that vision consistently, day in and day out. Now, if all of this feels a little overwhelming right now, take a breath, because the actual path to freedom happens through super manageable steps. It rarely happens in one incredible lottery-winning year. It happens through one investment, one habit, one lesson, and then you simply repeat it. You don't need perfect timing, and you definitely don't need to know everything on day one. You just need to begin and then keep going. So as we pull all these concepts together, I want you to keep this firmly in mind. Time and mindset are your absolute greatest advantages, period. The greatest advantage any investor can possess is time, because the longer your money sits in the market, the more your interest earns its own interest. And the really close second advantage, it's the mindset to use that time wisely, to ignore all the background noise, and just play the long game. Ultimately, it all distills down to a single, incredibly powerful number. 1. Lasting wealth doesn't start with $1 million just randomly falling into your lap. It begins with just one better decision made this week. Just one. It could be reading a financial book, opening up an investment account, or maybe just choosing to save your cash instead of spending it on something you don't really need. It all starts with one, which leaves us with one final question to think about. Which mindset shift will you start using today? Look back over the psychology we've covered and choose just one to apply right now. Please don't let this be just another explainer you consume and forget about by tomorrow. Apply it, because every single lasting legacy starts with a completely different way of thinking. So how are you going to change yours today? Thanks for exploring this framework with me. And remember, the most valuable asset you will ever own is your mind.